Dear tech wizards and tech witches, welcome back. Finally, we're going to get some n8n going. So in this tutorial, I'm going to explain you how I built the customer support agent connected to the email, has a knowledge base that is RAG supported, so retrieval augmented generation. That's what RAG stands for. And this is going to allow our agent to have a knowledge base that is tiny, quick, and fast, and to reference that to write an email. Where of course, we're going to go through all of the aspects. I'm really going to take it from the basics. So we don't even have n8n. We're just going to go in here and create an account. So n8n, for some reason, secure. We just add the And when you make an account, you have to take note that you're making a workspace. This workspace is where you can always log in. So if you go to n8n.io, you'll only see the login. Once you press sign in, it asks you for your workspace. So remember this. For me, it's like weblyfe.app.n8n cloud. Once you're in and you've got your account set up, there's a few more things that we need to do, which are credentials. Now we can do and add the credentials as we go through the steps. And I made a quick little checklist. So we have n8n, we just created an account. I don't need to explain you guys how that works. Then we have Pinecone. Pinecone is a retrieval augmented generated memory server service that allows you to create a free RAG memory server connected to our n8n agent, be able to contain all the information. In this tutorial, we're going to first focus on this because there's a funny thing going on with RAG. RAG memory basically takes all of your information that you have in plain text or in an image or whatever. It then splits it up into chunks and then encodes these and puts them into the database. This allows you to have like all these chunks that look like gibberish. If I go in, I can show you what it looks like, and we're going to set up a new one ourselves as well. But that gibberish is just chunks of text that it will look for patterns when it's searching in this database, and you can see there's a score associated to it, there's an ID. So this chunk has specific knowledge and it has location lines from and to, and the source is a blob and it says blob type, what kind of document it is. So using this, we can create an index, and when we create the index, we can add this index to ourselves. So we just created our n8n account, we can go in and create our index. What do you do when it comes to Pinecone? You go to pinecone.com. First, you create an account, or like something's wrong with this HTTPS. Let's just go Pinecone. I think it's maybe not .com, but just like IO. Yeah, there we go. It's IO. Go pinecone.io. It's a vector database. Allows you to have a large amount of knowledge in a small and easy to search server. That's what you should remember about Pinecone or RAG in general. And I've briefly explained how it works. You can always go in and go deeper, but you don't even need to know how it works. Just follow the steps and you'll be able to add your database to this advanced, your knowledge base to this advanced database. Here you see Pinecone database. You can create an account, sign up. It's completely free. Also with n8n, I do have the paid version, but setting this automation up in the one workflow that you have is completely free and you can actually use it as much as you want. Cool. Of course, you make your account. Once your account is made, you can jump over here to set it up. Okay, so you choose your email. You can use anything. You just create an account, verify your email, and then you get into this Weblyfe workspace default database. When you press create index, you're going to make a new index. I'm going to call this like solid WebU2 because I'm just giving an example. Now here's the configuration. This is a little bit important because in order for the AI to be able to read what's in this encoded database, it needs embedding. And we're going to use OpenAI embedding. This is, and we can use, this will work well with the agent as well as be cost efficient. And when you have an OpenAI key, you'll be able to do this. So you select text embedding 3 small. We see here text. And here the dimension, this is important. Later in the automation, we're going to say what the dimension is. It's either 512 or 1536. And it talks about like the size of it. Don't know exactly what it does. Again, you don't need to understand it, but it's important that you keep the same dimension, both in the automation as in your database. see it as like the size of the car, and if you try to park it and you have a different size, it's not going to park. So they need to match up in order for your agent to be able to read it. You can choose what cloud provider you want, Google Cloud, Anthropic, or AWS. It really doesn't matter, and they will just give you this server, I think for free, or this index, and then you can select a region, and that's it. So you press create index to allow you to create the index, and now it's ready. Now, of course, it's a little weird because it's empty. There's no records inside, and you wonder how we're going to put stuff inside. Well, in order to do that, you need to do it with code. And since we don't want to work with a terminal because we're all no-code tech wizards, we want to keep it simple. We're going to build a simple customer, like when automation here, the flow at the bottom. This is how we feed data into the database, and it will live in this database and be referenced in any of our automations later. And we're going to use Google Drive for this. So if you follow everything in Weblyfe University, you know how to make a marketing plan, how to keep feeding your AI with data, how to create a custom GPT. And the final thing that we're going to do is create a little folder, the Weblyfe knowledge base, and you can put up your knowledge base here. Inside of ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude, you can prompt to create an extensive knowledge base with all the information that you've given it. You can even ask it in your project page in Notion, where you have all your project information. And here you see the document that I've created. This document is going to serve as the knowledge base, and we're also going to give additional information. So the knowledge base is more like information and context to know, or like Q&As. A Q&A is a very great format for a knowledge doc. But as you can see, I have the pricing and everything in here. Of course, I don't want everybody to know the pricing when they inquire on the email. So what we're going to do is give it specific instructions on top of this knowledge base to always respond in the right way. And we're also going to create that together with AI. So open up a chat. We have our knowledge base. We have the drive. We put it all in a drive folder. We set up the index, and we can now do the following step, which is connecting this also to n8n. So let's go into n8n. Let's hop in a new flow. I'll keep this one open just so I can cheat. And we're going to start here, Google Drive download file, Pinecone vector store, and embed the file using an AI model and a recursive character text splitter that's going to determine how to split the text. And we're going to create a new workflow. So first feeding the RAG, then we'll build the agents. Very simple. First trigger manually, because we're going to run this every time we want to start it. Then we go in and you look for Drive. We're going to use the Google Drive API to download the file. We press download file, and now you see the first big challenge, but it's not that scary. The first big challenge is you need to set up a Google Cloud Console account or project to use the API keys inside of n8n. Sounds very technical and devy, but we can do it in less than a few minutes. So going through the system, you press create new credentials. Here already you can name it, Drive account to stay at weblyfe.nl, for example. Yes. And here you see we need to do two things, a client ID and a client secret. Now you have no idea where you can find this. So let's click more info, and you'll see we'll go to the OAuth page on how to do this. Here you can see there's one prerequisite, create a Google Cloud account. We continue clicking on the Google Cloud account. You can use your Gmail, your standard Gmail to make this. So now I'm inside Google Cloud. I click on console, and we're going to set up a new project. So here on the top left, you can see I'm already in a project, n8n Weblyfe. Let's create a new project. I'll call this demo. It's associated with my organization, and you can just press create. I'm going to create the project demo. Once it's created, we can select the project. You can see we're switched. That's it. So now the next step, how to get the API key. Okay, the project is created. You just go OAuth consent screen. So when you type OAuth, you can find this. It's within the security and API stuff, but it's completely fresh. And if you go here, you can also see it, I think. But you're in the, wait, let's go back to the OAuth consent screen. You press get started, OAuth overview. So here you can name the app anything, and you only need a name and an email, and that's it. So let's call this demo. We'll use the support email. You can choose yourself since you're like the admin here. Here you can just skip it, or it's like internal if you want. Contact email, we'll do the same one. I agree, continue, create.
Email there. And
okay, the OAuth is set up. Now we go to credentials. Here we have to create our credentials.
As you can see right now, we have no API key.
You just go over here, click credentials, you press OAuth client ID, and then we need to fill out a little bit of info. So here you put in web application, name, demo, and here we see authorized redirect URI. This is the way for n8n to be able to speak to cloud and be able to verify its them. So here you see the OAuth redirect URL. This is what it will call back when it's trying to verify or log in. You go back into Google Cloud Console and you can add this authorized redirect URL. Perfect. And you press create.
Redirect. We're going to click on this to copy it. Go back.
And as you can see, now I've got my client ID, my client secret. Now you copy these over, you put them in the credentials here, so the client ID and the client secret. And like I promised, in less than a few minutes, you're able to do this. So now you see this button is popping up, sign in with Google. You click this button and you select the Google account where you have the files residing in the drive, right? So you can see it will edit, create, and delete files, view photos, etc. You allow it all of this, but we're not fully done yet. So after logging in, there's still one more step we need to do, and that's enable the Google API. So we have the connection with the OAuth client that we created. Now you can just go in here, go to API, and if you see API and services, enable API and services, you can click here. Both will eventually get you the same way. So you have to look for this enable API and services, and you'll see APIs and services and library. And here we just type in Drive for Google Drive. And then here we see the Google Drive API. It's not enabled yet on this demo, but now it is. So we turned on the API. We have the API key and we have the credentials and the account, everything linked up. But now also it's allowed to use Google Drive and we can continue. So that was it for Cloud Console and everything. I know it sounds very overwhelming because it's a very massive tool and you can do a lot with it, but it's very simple. You don't need to do much. Just fill in a name, email, and make sure the OAuth is set up and the Google Drive is enabled. Now we should be completely good, and we can also test it by downloading a file. And now if you press from list, you can see it's going to load in the list. And there we go. It's perfectly working. So if I do knowledge, because I named the document like knowledge base, you can see there's a lot of knowledge pages, Weblyfe Agency and Weblyfe University knowledge. So I have this one, different ones. Let me just check how I named it. Here we go. This is the one. We can just take it and we can see that the file is being downloaded. When I press execute step, we can see that the file is being downloaded and we have all this loaded into n8n. Perfect. So we have the trigger set up, we have Google Drive set up. Now what we're going to do is type in Pinecone vector store. And here we can see add documents to vector store. We're going to click on this. Now you can see the Pinecone API. This one is much simpler. You just press new credentials, and it's very easy to get. If you go into pinecone.io and you're logged in, I think it's like top left or top right where you can select API. Even when you make an account, it immediately shows you an API key, and you can just use this API. So here you see on the left API keys. Here's your API key. You can create a new one. It's one of the main call to action buttons, and you just place it in here. So pasting an API key, I think you guys got this. I'll just use my Pinecone API Weblyfe. Here we see operation insert document. That's the one that we want. And then the Pinecone index, it says from list because we can list from our indexes that we have. And I just created WebU2, so we're going to use WebU2. Now, one thing that I mentioned before, you need to make sure that the embedding batch size is the same as it is on Pinecone. We go to database, we see the dimensions 1536. and we have to make sure we put that in. So over here we put the same 1536, otherwise it won't work. Perfect. So now we also need two more things, document and embedding. So this action step is going to add a document using the code. We need to be able to embed it. So when embedding, we will choose embedding from OpenAI. We use your same OpenAI credentials. I haven't covered how you get the OpenAI credentials, but you go to the .openai.com. This is where you'll find all of your keys and everything. You can log in with your account, and this is also where you need to top it up. So if you have a normal OpenAI account and you have a Plus membership or whatever, it's not the same as your API and your platform. This is really the techie stuff. So here, when you log in, you can find your API keys. I do I properly? Let me switch to personal. If we go to pricing, you can see here the pricing as well. And you can here see API references and everywhere you will go. But there is one place where you can find your own keys and always same. So you go to settings and then you go to API keys. Here you can create a new key and you can also go to billing and here you can add balance. So it's like a pay as you go. Auto recharge is off and it's actually super chill. If I look at my usage, which I can find here, you can see it's actually super, super cheap. So there's 458 requests that I use my API key for most of it. And like for this whole month of August, we're halfway in the month. It's only 27 cents of usage of my API key. So it's like a super clean solution, especially because we're using 4.0 mini, which is much less taxing on the system. So that's where you get your API keys and how you get your credentials set up in n8n for the agent. So we just select this, text embedding 3 small. That's the one that we need. And then I think dimensions 1532 or 1536. We have to add this in here as well. Okay, cool. Just double checking if I did it the same here as well. No, actually not. So we don't need it in the embeddings. But if you're going to be, it's not going to break it or anything like that. Here we have a document loader, so we can use the default document loader. It's a built-in thing. Here we can use binary because this means we're not doing JSON formatted, but binary. And then load specific data, data format, automatically detect. And here we see this download thing. So now we can actually continue with this step. We can press play. Oh wait, there's one more thing that we need, and that's this text splitter. I usually check recursive character text splitter, splits text into chunks by characters recursively, recommended for most use cases. So that's the one that we want. Here you can choose the chunk size and the chunk overlap. We don't really need to adjust these, but especially in other use cases would be more relevant. So now I'm playing it again. We've got everything set up. It's checking the embeddings, and there we go. It added all of the information from the knowledge base doc into here. Now, if you want to change the file, you can go here from list, and you can select, for example, WebView site. If I just type in WebView, I have here one document called WebView site. I used simple scraper. Oh wait, not simply book, but simple scraper.io. This scrape to AI helps to convert any website to an LLM ready markdown. Of course, Markdown is not one of the supported files, but Markdown is a format that, the way it's written, that AI will like it, just like JSON, because they like code more than they like human natural language. It can be very confusing, but code is very clear. So Markdown is just a way where you can take natural language and put it in a certain format. Same with JSON, when we do JSON advanced schematics. Okay, cool. So you take this, that's how I built my knowledge base, so you know that as well. And I've created this file that I want to use, and I put it in a texting. So there we go. So here I just execute this again, and it's now loaded in. I can execute the whole workflow where it will execute everything, or I can just press play here again, and it will execute it, take the default document, split it up, then put it in using the embeddings from OpenAI. And it works perfectly. Now, how can you check whether or not stuff is inside? You just go to Pinecone. You'll see your index. We have type 2 index, like WebView2. This is the new one that we made. And you can see that in the namespace, and it's called default. We might want to change it to WebView2. because you can't use default namespace in the stuff. So namespace, I think we need to change it and maybe push the files again. So how you would change the namespace is if you go here, you can press clear namespace or let's see, Pinecone index, insert documents. Pinecone namespace is the one you add. You can make a different namespace, so WebU2, and it's important that it's not default. So if we play it again, it's going to execute it, push it to the database, the knowledge base, but then put it in a different namespace. And here you see we have WebU2 added. So it's important that you don't use defaults, but like you change and add a namespace. So I'm deleting the other one as well, the defaults, because we can't use this. And I'm re-pushing it, the knowledge that I just gave it the first time, but this time we do it again with the knowledge base document. Um, Here we go. We selected this, we can execute the whole workflow. It will download the file, take it to Pinecone, split it up, make it recursive, embed it, and there we go. Now we'll see this is again 74 records, and if we have anything else in here, website.md, web user, yeah, it's only two files. The other one is just a converted version of the other version. So we have our indexes, they're now identical and they have the same knowledge. Now we can start building the actual flow for the customer support agent tutorial. And we start off with one of two triggers. The first one can be either Gmail, so you can add your Gmail credentials, or in my case, I was using private email. If I go to private email, I can log in. This is one email service that you can have from Namecheap. And I have this info at Weblyfe University. I have an email ID and a password for this, and there's some other settings that you need to set up. But to be able to use email that is not like Gmail or something like this, simply go into here, type in email, and you see here email trigger IMAP, which is an instant trigger, triggers the workflow when a new email is received. You here see also the tool, but we're just using this, and this is going to allow us to see new incoming emails. Now, I already have my IMAC account linked up. If you need to link it up, you just put in the email here, the password here. The host is something you can find out. So if you go into ChatGPT or if you just do private email host IMAP, you can see that even Gemini is going to tell you it's mail.privateemail.com and the port is 993 for SSL or 143 for TLS star TDLS. So you just know mail.privateemail.com. That's how you're going to add the email. So now it can actually receive emails from me whenever an email is sent, and it will be able to read it. So to actually show this, we need to press execute step. It's going to start listening, and it will listen until I give it actual data. But this trigger, we know it works because we set it up before. And as we go through the flow, we're going to also find out and test it a little bit more. Okay, perfect. Now, the next thing to do is we don't want all the emails to be in here. So we add a text classifier. So there's another one of these nice things that you can have, a text classifier, and we can add AI into here to text classify. So first off, I would like to have a email so we can look through the data. We can add an email, an AI node, because we're going to use AI to figure out what kind of email it is, obviously. So we add our AI chat model, and then we also have to define what the different classes are when people come in. So those are the categories. So let's say we have two categories. We have like lead or like three category, a person interested in more information or buying. That's the description. Then we have customer, which is, we will add these things in here as well. Let's actually execute workflow. There was a problem. The issue cannot be, okay, let's see if we have the credentials set up, info at Weblyfe University. Let's see, format is simple, action mark as read. Yeah, we will mark it as read. And let me see if there's any other settings we need to set up to make our lives easier and show some data. I actually went and created a email that I can send to Weblyfe University. And we're going to catch this data while we're executing the step, trying to get this information inside. One second, hold on. Okay, after a quick check, apparently we have to set this to active in order to make it receive new emails. So let's work on this. We have text to classify, and if we go into ChatGPT, I just send this email actually 10:44. I can mark it as unread. So this one, mark it as unread. I think there's a button here. Mark as unread. Let's use that. And in ChatGPT, we want to define a certain, like, help me define something. Let me go in here. I think this is where I was doing all of the information. And what we basically want to describe, text to classify, is a giving it instructions on how to determine what email is what kind of content. So we have all these categories. Text to classify should be the data that we put in. And then we have lead, which is what I created like a summary for using ChatGPT, like describe a lead. So here we see lead as sales inquiry from a potential client or partner. The sender asks about pricing, packages, timeout, scope, availability. So here you define the categories when somebody is what. So here we have customer support. Here we also have a definition. If you look at the definition, the expression here, increase its size, treat as an existing customer, user request, blah, blah. So this allows us to um, dissect who's who and what needs to happen with who and send them off different parts. So we add another category. And the last category will be other. And then I'll just add this description, everything that's not a sales inquiry or a customer support newsletter, cold pitches, sponsorships, job partner. So we only want them to reply to people that actually pay us at the moment. I'm trying to, it has issues. Please fix them first. No problem executing the workflow. Okay, so we just need to execute this step and it is set mock data. I can actually set some mock data to maybe help us to actually have some input. And in order to do that the most beautiful way, I'm actually going to take raw because I don't know why this is not working right now. It was yesterday. We can just go to executions here and see how the raw data is inputted. So we can give it a very realistic and factual input of what data will be given. So here we can we execute this node? I need some of this mock data to actually make it run, what I'm noticing now. Not capturing it. Let's maybe do this. We create a new credential and we do the example. Yeah, let's do the example with, instead of my IMAP, which is like private email in this case, we can just use the Gmail trigger. And luckily for me, I already set this up, so it's already working on the other one. So we can actually use the Gmail trigger. And then here you have message actions, draft actions, and triggers. Well, the trigger is on message received. So let's use this trigger. Gmail account, I do have a Gmail account connected. And we can say how many times you want to check the poll. Message received is what we want, and simplify is fine. So let's see, fetch test event. Please create one in Gmail and try again. And see if the Gmail credentials is correct. Reconnect, sign in with Gmail. I'll add in, stay at a Weblyfe. Continue. We already have some access. Connection successful. Perfect. Let's fetch some test data. Need some data. And also for the Gmail account, you need to enable in Cloud Console, Google.cloud, Cloud, Google Cloud Console, console.cloud.com. In the same app that you actually use the credentials with, in the demo or in the n8n whatever, the Gmail, you need to enable the API as well.
APIs and services, and then we need to get a Gmail API, and it's the exact same step. We just have to hit enable and then n8n side of things. There we go. Now we could come in here, we could fill out what we want, and we'd be able to send an email. Then finally, same exact thing for docs, sheets, anything else you want to use. You'll connect to that new credential. You're just
Perfect. So we're connected now. Let's go back and see if we now fetch any data. If we can use the Gmail API to be sure it's also the same credential. I'm just going to log myself in second time. Continue. Perfect. So we'll call this Gmail account 2. Let's try Gmail account 2. And still no data. Awkward. Let me try to figure this out. 1 second. So it was true. If you wanted to make the email trigger work, you just place the email trigger, press execute, but after you've made it like this. So send yourself a new email. I put this email here, and this is the text data that we're going to use and fetch. So this one is different from the other one. The other one was set up on IMAP. This one is set up on Gmail, but it doesn't really matter. Both of them will work. Here, the text to classify is basically the snippet, but what's really inside. So see the payload, size estimate, labels, probably labels, variables and context. What I'm looking for is in the Gmail trigger and should be the whole body. I want the whole body of the email. So far, this is like the only thing that I see. Size estimate labels, the whole payload. Ensure I'm grabbing the whole message, the body of the message, and that I'm using this. So it must be this information, the only one. Here we set up the customer to understand and execute. So here we will probably see lead, and this is correct. So lead is the email that I sent, and that's what's going to happen next. Now we can actually make it a little bit more fun by going into the agent. So to add an agent, you press start, you add AI, and you say AI agent. Now this AI agent, we're going to wire it up to the lead as well as the customer. The other one, we leave it empty. So when there's other emails in that, it would just be empty. Here we go into the chat. Here, source for prompt, define below, because we want to put in what the Gmail trigger originally sends. So prompt user, I'll put in like, for example, user or email sent by, or like from. Then I can put in this, so it knows who it's from. And then we have body. And here in the body, I will put in the information about what it's saying. So Gmail trigger snippet, this is the one. We're going to take this and put this here, just like that. Then we have a system message. Now, this is where we're going to put all the instructions that we would need to allow it to send it to the right person, to change it, whatever. You can make this in ChatGPT by saying, I want to create a AI agent that's going to manage my email to customer support agent. I want to make sure that when people are in need of help, you reference the knowledge base. You have a knowledge base you can reference. And based on that, you can determine everything. And I created this whole prompt for myself. So let's just use the one that I already have, but you can use ChatGPT to create it just the way you want. Put in bullet points everything that it is that you want. And here I express it. So if you go to expression and I open it up, Role and mission, you are the Weblyfe Universal Email Concierge, a skilled AI communication strategist with three primary missions. Respond to leads, respond to customers, escalate to humans. And and say it when an issue cannot be solved. Well, let's remove this actually. You with, let's say, two primary missions, a skilled, we can remove AI because we don't need to do that. So we can here tweak and everything. Escalate to humans. I'm just going to remove all of this human escalation stuff. And we're just going to 1, 2, and 3, let this happen. Yeah, perfect. So email types, you can see direct to slash start, no pricing, never mention pricing, all of this. So the instructions are clear. And now you see there's an email coming in, there's some information. We need to add a chat model, which is a brain to it. So we can do this. OpenAI chat model, we can connect it to the same node actually. So in the previous one, I didn't connect them to the same node, but you can connect them to the same node. And we also need to add a tool. Now, this is where our Pinecone comes in. Pinecone vector store. Select it. We have a knowledge base name for it. I can just call it WebU2. And description should be something very clear because the AI is going to see this and it's going to understand. So use the Pinecore vector store to find information about Weblyfe University, Weblyfe, in order to help the lead or the customer to the best of your ability. Perfect. So now from the list, we can select WebU2. This is the new index that we made with all the extra information. And then the Pinecone namespace, we also set this up, WebU2. Perfect. Then we need some embedding, just like the previous one. We use the embed model 3 small. And that's it, I believe. Let me double check if I need to add any buffer size or anything to this. No, we don't. We just need it to be there, enabled and embedding. So we'll place the tool a little bit below it. Perfect. And then now it has a brain, it has memory, it has context, it has instructions. We can execute this step. And what we're expecting to see is an output of a complete email. It's a complete email. It is in HTML and just, oh, this is raw formatted HTML as output. Return the email in clean, readable, plain text, formatted to read easily. Perfect. So we can execute it. We could have kept the email in HTML, but I just like to output it as a plain text. It's a little bit easier. And then we can go and send it back to us. Okay, so subject, there's a subject already in here. Return the email body, and then we can say no subject, because I just want to send the email. The subject I want to keep the same. I just want to make it RE, semicolon, and then the title that they use themselves, the subject that they use themselves. We'll set this up in the last trigger, just like that. So we have hello, say it, and we're all set. Now the final step is to actually return an email. And we can set Gmail, and of course you can make this more elaborate, you can add more things, but now you know the basics of how to make the vector store, how to set it up, how to set up an agent. So we're going to use send a message. And here we can select all of the details. So resource message, operation sent, who are we sending it to? When we go into the Gmail trigger, you can see there is this to, or like from say it at Weblyfe University. Boom. Say it at weblyfe.nl. Subject, the same subject that they had, like I said before, and then we just add RE semicolon, and it's like results RE hello, so you can see it too. Say it at weblyfe.nl. Maybe we need to change this because if we want multiple addresses can be separated by a comma. I don't know if it can handle this format, but if it cannot, I just put it in. Like I can literally click here and ask ChatGPT to, because all of this is like in a formula and you can add it into a formula as well. Change the input. So the output is just say it at weblyfe.nl from this input. Now, this will adjust the expression. So this is the normal expression, and this expression will give a different output. So if I copy this, we can also check it. We can select all of this, paste it, and you see the result just becomes my plain email. So it's removing all of this, and then it's the plain email. Then the email type, I can just make it text so it looks and feels like I typed it and sent it out. And here, just like in Zapier, we can go to our different steps and have the different information. And now I actually have everything ready. So we can press execute step and it just sent an email just like that. I think it will send it to me again. This is the email I sent. There we go. And here is the response I get. Now, obviously, it's not fun to do it from here, but you can see it works perfectly. So also here, when it comes to this and appending n8n, you want to make sure that the instructions are good. So we're lazy. We're just going to disable this append n8n. So go here, append n8n attribution. This will prevent that little n8n thing to show up. And I want this always to sign off with my name. And when it sends a link, to not send the link in a weird way. So best thing I can do is take the system prompt that I have, because all of this text is written, of course, by my concierge. I have the following system prompt and want to adjust it in the next way. When sending links, make sure that you just send the link and not embed it in a weird way like the screenshot. Always end the email with Sayed, CEO Weblyfe, or founder Weblyfe, something like this. And I'll just give it my email. So this is how you can adjust it and make it better. And you can even ask it like, hey, how do I make the subject determined by the AI? Because you can use determined by AI, or like AI picks what to put there. And you can do it like that too. Here's the system prompt. And if I paste it, it's here. Please rewrite it so it will work even better. And there we go. So we adjust the system prompt a little bit. And I can ask it like, format this in Markdown for me. Markdown is again that style. And we'll put everything in Markdown, which is more easily readable. As you can see, this is Markdown. It shows like what's a heading, what's in dividers and all this stuff. So it's very formatted. And Markdown is a really easy and clear way to use it. And here, of course, we have to put this inside because it kind of like when it does code inside of code, it tweaks out like this. So here I put it in. And here I also make sure that I put in my Sayed founder Weblyfe inside as well. And I think it also sent an email to me. So if I delete this one, this was the original email we sent. Hi, I want to know how it works. What can I achieve? And the email response we get. Okay, so let's test it out a little bit more. We'll save this email, we'll save this automation, and we'll set it to active. Now, when we do this, I'll also switch to a different account. I'll switch to my private, and I want to see this automation execute. So I'm going to send an email to sayed@weblyfe.nl. There we go, this one. How does the program work? And then I also like to do this in recent times a lot, where I just go to edit, start dictation. Hey, Sayed, it is me, Bob. Bob is someone that is very curious, and because of my curiosity, I would really like to know what is this program about? You're teaching people how to become tech wizards. Are you getting any results? Are you teaching us anything valuable? Can you give me a little overview? And what if I want to call with you? How does that work? Or how do I start? Can you please answer these questions for me? And I would be super grateful. Kind greetings, Bob. Okay. It might still, oh, there we go. It might still be super grateful. Kind greetings, Bob. It might still think we're Sayed because the name of the sender is actually inside of the metadata of the email. But if I send this email, we just wait a little bit and I should get an email back. Of course, it's boring. So let's go here to executions and follow everything to the T. So 2218, we did the last test. We're just waiting a little bit. Automation is on. Trigger is active. Every 1 minute, it's going to check for the emails. And once we see it here triggered, and actually after a brief moment, I would say around a minute, I got a response. So here you see how does the program work. Hey Bob, I'm glad to see your curiosity about the program. At Weblyfe, we make a transformative curriculum. So here are some of the key components of a program. The magic system. Now I can also go in and say like, if you're doing bold text, only do 2 stars, like one in front, one in head, and one behind. Or if you do bold text, don't do it in markup or in rich text, but do it in HTML or in whatever. But here you can see I have the magic system, one-on-one coaching, community access, flexible learning levels, blah, blah. You can press start. And again, this appendage, I probably forgot to save it. So we have to edit this, go in, append n8n. This is true. Saved. Take care of that. So when you do this append n8n attribution, oh, maybe we turn it off. Sorry. That's what we probably have to do. And then now if we try to execute the step again, it will probably send it without. So let's try that one more time. Here we can test it again. So let's make a completely different email. Let's just dictate it. I saw that you give a course on web design and branding, and I was wondering, do you also teach sales? I think it's very important to know how to close clients. I cannot imagine what I would feel like if I learned all the skills and I was able to execute, but not able to communicate and sell these skills. I'm wondering, and I want to know if this program offers what I'm looking for. Is there any chance you can give me more information, please? Greetings, Peter. Very cool. Yep. Okay, very cool. So let's send this email again out from my personal. And we'll just wait a minute to see how it responds.